Welcome to Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexei, and today I want to talk about business coaching. Have you got a business coach? Is there someone who helps you with your business? If you do, great. Please share some feedback. I'd really like to start a bit of a dialogue and show some of the listeners what that could potentially do for a business. But overall, look, business coaching is a fairly broad area, and I find that besides accountability and helping people, get to certain goals, there's obviously a lot of other things that could be done. Some coaches really focus on the whole work-life balance, which is what a lot of established businesses are looking for, because it could really be quite tiring working on a business non-stop and potentially missing the point of taking holidays and taking the benefits from the business. I think networking is another really big area of business coaching, and potentially having business coaches, especially the ones that conduct group sessions, would allow for some good introductions that could potentially benefit you in the future. Skill development, things like time management, for example, was one of the things I have learned. My experience with business coaching has been quite positive. One of my business coaches, Anthea, and I'll try to get her on the podcast sometime, has really helped me on quite a few fronts. I went to her time management workshop back in about 2013, which was called Stop the Clock. And it was quite clever that she's put that together around time management, because most business owners are actually terrible at planning their time. Well, I think maybe it's not just business owners, but obviously for the sake of this podcast, let's focus on the business coaches. So she basically put together a one-day workshop, which was actually a really good lead qualifier for her, where she could help people make some quick wins by applying some very simple time management techniques, some of which were, working in manageable chunks using the Pomodoro principle, if you're familiar with that, grouping tasks, potentially assessing certain tasks that would take too long and schedule them in for proper timing, avoid multitasking, and so on and so on. There's a bunch of different tips. So Anthea, if you're listening to this and you run your Stop the Clock workshops, it's definitely something I highly endorse. Then from there, I worked with Anthea on her 3 months program, which was really more about helping businesses fine-tune their sales process. And through that potential exercise, I have been able to almost double my business within the course of about four months or so. I got my money back very quickly on that particular workshop because of the caliber of people that were in that group as well. It was just very interesting to see how the other businesses were doing, and that also helps you understand your own limitations as well. So if you're considering group coaching versus individual coaching, I recommend trying both because group coaching has got its own, pros and cons. And if you've never done coaching, that's probably an easier way to get into it. And I think there's one thing we all do by, quite naturally, which is compare ourselves to other business owners. And this is where you really pick up on some things that could easily be improved. So that worked out really well. Anthea basically has been able to help me identify the gaps in my sales process and improve that through a series of exercises. And then from there, I work with her personally on the rest of my business, because while you may have programs that are tailored specifically to areas of the business, overall, having a business coach and being able to bounce ideas and get that feedback and support is really, really valuable. But, my experience is very, very positive. I do recommend business owners investing in things like, business coaching, mentors, advisors. And overall, I may have mentioned the book called Who Not How by Benjamin Harvey, which talks about, not trying to do everything yourself, which I think is where a lot of businesses really get stuck. One thing for some reason that we value least is our own time. We think that, hey, if I'm going to spend a day on a website, or if I'm going to do my own books and so on, I'm going to be better off. But in reality, it's really what you specialize in is what you should be doing the most. I understand there's obviously, different situations, and sometimes businesses are run very differently, but in theory, ideally, you should really be focusing on what you're really good at. So, yeah, I think, if you're looking to get a business coach, make sure you've got clear goals. I mean, my advice for you is before you jump anything, try to understand what the problem is and what your goals are, because if you can identify that gap as to where you are right now and where you're going, it becomes a little bit easier as to potentially at least identify what the course of action would be. And this is where business coaches are great. If you tell them exactly where you are now and where you're going, they will help you put together a strategic plan and potentially provide additional education, support, and connections in order to get there. I think a lot of the time people go into business coaching without even realizing those sort of things and really just focusing on the one area of the business. A lot of the time it's, things like cash flow. And overall, while you can focus on cash flow to improve that, it's not a result of just the one specific thing. It's the entire business that really needs to be addressed. I do also find that quite a lot of business coaches are accountants or former accountants, and they like to look at the whole business from profit and loss. I've got no problem with that approach. The only issue is business is such a personal thing for a lot of people. They started for a variety of reasons. And, while profit and loss could potentially help you identify where gaps are and focus on the right things, if you look at it black and white and put aside all the emotion, oftentimes the business owner doesn't quite feel aligned with the business. I mean, I felt like that at times where, if you bluntly just wanting to sort of cut costs and optimize resources and not really understand, what you enjoy and how you align with people and processes, things didn't quite go according to plan. So my advice to you is make sure you see the bigger picture. And I guess I like to look at businesses from the perspective of marketing, sales, operations, and accounting as a business. And then obviously from the business owner in terms of the professional growth and then work-life balance. I mean, I've put together a little bit of a coaching process myself, where I help business owners specifically with their sales and marketing. I find that if you fine-tune those things, you can really get a much better result out of your existing budget. So if that's something you guys want to have a chat about sometime, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, in this particular podcast, I wanted to endorse the concept of business coaching, and I wanted to, share with you, I guess, the areas of business coaching and, based on my own experience. Lastly, if you do get a business coach, make sure you put a bit of a timeline around the actual works with that business coach, because I do find quite a few people get stuck in this relationship with a business coach where they've been going for a very long time. And look, nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes you really get some quick wins, and then over time you do become somewhat dependent on that conversation. And then it's all about support moving forward. But if you really want to make a leap, it's probably worth the while to trial somebody else with a different set of skills that specialize in a particularly different area as well. Look, either way works. I think if you want to continuously perform at a higher level, you do need multiple coaches that can help you with those specific areas of the business. But overall, I think it's about understanding that running a business is a fairly, lonely situation. And oftentimes you basically just need validation and feedback and basically get that emotional support as well, because a lot of the business events do align with our life events. And if you just look at it from the business perspective, I think this is where the business owner really is left alone to face the challenging, which can be quite difficult sometimes as well if you overlay that with stress, family, and a few other areas of life as well. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this. If you do so, please share my podcast with other business owners or anyone else who may benefit. I would love to help as many people as I can with advice and direction. I think the best way to learn is by being wise. It's really by learning from other people. And I, until today, learn something every single day based on other people's experience. So the trick is really to listen and to ask the right questions. So that's my approach, guys. And I wish you all luck when it comes to your businesses, but please make sure that you do get support early on. Otherwise, if you've been sort of operating for a long time with not a lot of change, it's probably worth the while considering a business coach or someone who could potentially help you step up your game. Anyway, my name is Alexei. This is Better Business Podcast. Hope to speak to you soon.